Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with a very exciting video, at least for me, because I am a numbers geek and I'm also a makeup lover, and today I'm going to combine two of my loves into one. I am going to talk you through how many years of makeup I really own in my collection, which is something that I'm very intrigued to find out. I mean, I've done the calculations now, so I do know, but it was very exciting to me to do the calculations and figure out how much makeup I actually own statistically in my collection. So I've done some calculations using obviously my current collection as well as my empties over the last couple of years to try to figure out how long it would actually take me to pan my whole collection. And there's some mixed results. Some categories I'm very pleased with, some categories I'm like, that's fine. Others terrifies me a little bit. But I'm going to get into all of those numbers in a bit. But before I jump into the video, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. Let's jump into the video. So some housekeeping before I actually talk you through the numbers. So the way I calculated these numbers, I've seen some other people do these videos, and they just look at the empties from last year and use that as a tool. I find that interesting too. That's kind of like, you know, one of the reasons why I got this idea. I don't actually know who originated this idea, so if you know, please let me know down below. I know this was like, was it on Reddit? I think it might have been a Reddit thread originally that kind of created this theme. At least I saw some people do it like a couple years ago, like way back. But then they actually calculated how many grams they used in 1 year and used that. And that's obviously like I feel like the most accurate way to do this. But I don't have the capacity at the moment to weigh my collection, like eyeshadows and things like that, to see how many grams I actually use up in a year. I don't have the capacity for that right now. So I think this is the closest. But the way I've done it, because again, I feel like using just the data from 1 year wouldn't be too accurate, because, you know, some years you might have a great empty year. You might, you know, sometimes you might work on a really massive bronzer, finish up one bronzer, whereas another year you might finish up like 2 smaller bronzers, or, you know, something like that. So that's why I feel like using 1 year of data wouldn't be sufficient enough. So what I've done is I've actually gone back all the way back to the beginning of my journey on YouTube, and I have calculated out how many empties I've had in each category throughout the 6 years. Yeah, 6 years I've been on YouTube. So I wrote all of those down, 2018 through to 2023, because obviously we are currently in 2024, so I can't include the data from now yet. And then I used that as like the base for my calculations. I took the total number divided by 6 to get an average on how many things I use up each year. And then I used that as a tool to see how many years it would take me to finish up what I have currently. I hope all of that makes sense, and that's how I did it. And I think that will give me a bit more of an accurate representation, which is what I wanted to get. But I'm not going to ramble anymore. I am going to talk you through the numbers and let you know kind of what my findings were. So I have a list on my phone. I have like the numbers, and then I have like all of the empties that I listed out. So quite a lot of data. I'm not going to talk you through everything. I'm just going to talk you through the average like I used up per year throughout like those 6 years, as well as how many I have now and how many years that leads to. So I'm going to go in the order of my list. I'm going to start with base products and move my way down. So first up in my calculations, we have primers, and currently in my collection I have 6 primers. That is like full size and minis and all of that kind of stuff, but 6 primers overall. And when I did my calculations, I realized that I use up 2.17 primers per year on average, which means that I currently have 2.76 years of primers, and that's completely fine. Like 2.5, 3 years is absolutely fine. And I also know that a lot of, like, I think I have 3 mini primers at the moment as well in my collection. So I think I should be able to get through these quicker than the numbers say. Also, I know that I've gone years prior without using primer like for long periods of time. So I think I could definitely move through them faster if I wanted to. But on average, it would take me 2.76 years, which I'm fine with. That's good by me. Then let's move on to foundations next. So I actually also have 6 foundations in my collection at the moment. However, looking at my numbers, I have actually done better with foundations rather than primers, which again makes sense to me because foundation is something that I use every single day. Well, most of the time when I'm wearing makeup, compared to primers, which I go periods of time when I don't use at all. Like today, for example, I'm not using a primer. I'm using like my skincare and my what's called my sunscreen. So it makes sense to me. But for foundations, I have an average of 3.83 foundations per year that I've used up, which means that I currently have 1.57 years left of foundations, which again, I'm really happy with. That's like a year and a half-ish, a little bit over, and that's fine. That's like all I could ask for. I don't know how accurate that is because I think some of the numbers, when I started my panning journey, I had like a lot of half-empty foundations, so obviously that number was quite high in the beginning. So maybe using up 3.83 foundations per year isn't like 100% accurate. But it also kind of depends on how full the foundations are in my collection, so I'm still going to go off it, but even if it goes up to like 2 years worth of foundation, again, that's fine by me. Moving on to the next category, we're continuing with base products, and we have concealers next. So currently I have 7 concealers in my collection, and when I did my calculations, I found that I have used up 2.83 concealers on average per year, which means that I currently have 2.47 years worth of concealer. Again, 2.5 years, fine by that. I feel like that's not too much. I feel like when it comes to like liquid base products like this, keeping it under like 3 years is amazing. I know like they say on the expiry date and stuff like that on foundations and, you know, concealers and whatnot, it's usually like 6 months or 12 months or even 18 months in very rare cases. But I feel like if you take care of your makeup, they will last a little bit longer. But if I had more than like 3 years worth, I would probably start worrying a little bit. But yeah, I think that's fine. It means that I'm at a good place with those categories, at least for now. When it comes to correctors, I currently have 2 correctors in my collection. They're actually both the same. They're both the Becca Under Eye corrector. And when I looked at my correctors, I used up approximately 0.83 correctors per year. So barely 1, which is fine, because again, I think it's a product that I don't use every single day. I use it more now than I used to, but it took me a long time to get through them in the past because I didn't use them as regularly. But with all of that being said, I currently have 2.41 years worth of correctors. So again, around that 2.5 year mark. So a lot of my base products at the moment has been falling within that category. The highest is primers with 2.76 years. And then the lowest is foundations with 1.57. But actually, both concealers and correctors fall around 2.4, 2.5 years. So pretty similar results in those categories. And again, I'm really happy with that. However, next moving on to like non-liquid based products, and we have powders next. So I just decided to group together both like loose and pressed powders into one category because yeah, that's what I decided to do. So currently in my collection, I have 14 powders, which is probably the most I've ever had in my collection. And when I looked at my numbers, I use up on average 2.17 powders a year, which gives me the highest number yet. It gives me 6.45 years worth of powder, which is a little bit alarming. I do think I would be able to get through them faster than that because some of them obviously aren't full powders, and yeah, I don't think it would last that long. But even so, having more than 5 years worth of powder is a lot. And it shows me that I need to like curb my purchasing when it comes to powders. The problem is that with some of the powders that I have in my collection at the moment, they are too deep for me. So I'm trying to get through some of the deeper ones that I have, and then just obviously repurchase them in my shade. So I might have to continue purchasing powders like in my like fairer skin tone while I work through the deeper powders that I have. But that is a decision I need to make another day. But currently, again, I have 6.45 years worth of powder. When it comes to setting sprays, with this one, I did my calculations a little bit differently because, well, currently I have 3 setting sprays in my collection. And when I was looking at setting sprays, I actually haven't even used, I haven't owned setting sprays all the years that I had empties. So I decided to exclude the years where I didn't have any setting sprays in my collection into the calculations, just because, of course, I can't finish a setting spray if I don't have one in my collection. And I only owned a setting spray 4 out of the 6 years. And with that, it gave me an average of 0.75 setting sprays used up per year, which I think is pretty accurate. So with that, it means that I have 4 years worth of setting sprays at the moment. I think that's good. The thing with my setting sprays at the moment is that I have different like type of setting sprays. I have like 2 setting sprays that are like long lasting, and then the third one I have is more of a skincare kind of hydrating setting spray, which is fine. So you know, I think that's a good number. I think the more like long wearing setting sprays is the ones I go through faster, and I have 2 of those, and I think those can last me quite a long longer. But I'm okay with the numbers. 4 years is always quite a long time, but it also is because I haven't been using setting sprays very regularly in my past, and I don't use it too regularly now either. But I do use it now when I go to the office or when I go out for longer periods of time, things like that. I do use them a bit more, so I think I will go through them faster nowadays than I did in the past, if that makes sense. But that is setting sprays, and that also wraps up my like complexion based product category. The next category we have is from cheek products. We're going to go through my cheek products next. And the first category we have to talk about is bronzers, and currently I also have quite a high number of bronzers in my collection. It's again probably one of the highest numbers that I've ever had when it comes to bronzers. But currently I have 12 bronzers in my collection, and when I look back at my numbers, I have used up 1.5 bronzers on average for the last couple of years, which means that I currently have 8 years worth of bronzers, which is a lot. That is the highest number so far, and it's worrying me a little bit, but it's still manageable, I think. And I do think that some of the bronzers that I have now I can get through faster than the ones that I've had in the past. So I'm okay with it. I think realistically, I think it's more like maybe 5 years, but that might be me being optimistic. Because this year, for example, my goal is to finish up 3 bronzers. I've already finished 1, but if I did that, I mean, that would already be double the bronzers that I've used up on average, which then if I continue doing that, would cut my years down to 4, which is much better than 8. But again, it's kind of like a rough estimate, obviously looking back at previous years. And it's fine. 8 it's okay. It's manageable. It's definitely a lot, but it's manageable. And it's definitely way more manageable than my next couple categories. Let's move on to those next, because this is when it starts getting a little bit, like, yeah, it's not the best numbers, but let me talk you through it. So the next category we have are highlighters. And again, kind of like broken record here, but I have acquired a lot of highlighters in the last kind of year or two. And I've never had this many highlighters. Highlighters is something that both highlighters and bronzers are something that I feel like I've always been fine having not too many of. But it's exploded. I did actually receive a lot of free makeup from my friend Martina. So grateful for all of that. And I got to try a lot of new kind of products that I've been dying to try. And she introduced me to a lot of new brands, things like that. And that also is why my numbers have gone up a lot. But currently, I have 31 highlighters in my collection, and with these products, that is like highlighters that are single highlighters in palettes, all of that kind of stuff. But everything that is a highlighter, like liquid, powder, all of that falls into like this category, and the same for all of my categories that I'm talking about. But 31 highlighters at the moment, and same as the bronzers, I have on average used up 1.5 highlighters per year over the last couple of years, which means that I have 20.67 years worth of highlighter. Yeah, just letting that sit there for a moment, because that is crazy. I mean, I haven't even worn makeup for 20 years yet of my life. Like, I am currently 30, and I don't remember when I started wearing makeup like properly, but that is scary to think of. But again, I do think the numbers would be a little bit lower, because again, looking at just this year, for example, I currently have already used up 1 highlighter. And my goal is to probably finish up. I have a lofty goal this year, but my goal would be to finish maybe like 4 or 5. I think ideally 5 highlighters, because I really do want to get the number down. And you know, if I have a couple of those years far out, I would cut the years it would take to finish up all my highlighters drastically. So you know, there is hope in this category, and I think what I will do is maybe I will like come back to this video yearly or every 2 years, or however often you want to see it. Let me know like if this is something you want to see on a yearly basis. But yeah, I'll come back and obviously add the current numbers in, and obviously get like a better representation of the numbers, because the more years I have of empties, the more realistic the numbers will be. But yeah, that is highlighters. Next up, we're continuing with a bit of alarming numbers, because next up is blushes, and blushes is something that I've always had a lot of. Yeah, I always had a lot of blushes. It's something that I've always had as a problem category, and I've been trying to curb my purchasing for a long time, and I have actually gone down in my blushes, but then for the last couple of years, it's kind of been hovering between 35 and 40 blushes, and currently I'm sitting at 39 blushes in my collection. So with 39 blushes in my collection, that's a lot, but on average, prior to this, I have used up 1.5 blushes per year, and that gives me 26 years worth of blushes. Again, very high number. Again, a little bit alarming. Again, I don't even know if I could get through those. I think obviously I would probably declutter some of my blushes before I could finish them up, but yeah, alarming. Again, the number might change a little bit because, for example, this year I've already finished up one blush, and I am hoping to finish up at least 2 more blushes, so that would be 3 blushes. And again, that would be like double what my average is, which would cut the years down to 13, which would be way more manageable. But again, I don't think I can finish 3 blushes every year, but if I can finish 2 per year, that would be a bit more realistic for me. And that would also bring down the numbers a little bit to, what's that? It would bring it down to like 19.5, which is still a lot, but a bit more manageable. But yeah, I'm gonna just ignore my blushes because I've known for a long time that is a problem category for me. So I'm gonna ignore that for a little bit, and I'm gonna move on to the next category. And also, by the way, that is my cheeks category done. So you're gonna move into eyes next, apart from eyeshadows, because I'm saving those for the end because I think that's the most exciting. At least that was one of the most exciting parts for me. But I'm gonna move on to eyes next. So for eyeshadow primers in my collection at the moment, I have 2 eyeshadow primers. That is one like pure eyeshadow primer, which is my P. Louise base, and then I have one glitter glue, which is kind of what I want to sit at any point in time as it is, because I feel like that's all I need. But on average per year, I used up 0.83 primers, eyeshadow primers, which means that I currently have 2.41 years worth of primers. But for a fact, I know that's not true, because the P. Louise base, for example, I am very close to finishing. Not very close, but I think that should be done in the next like 3 months at least. And then the glitter glue, I think I'm halfway through that as well, so that I guess probably will be done before the end of the year. So that's kind of what I mean with these numbers as well. Like, you can't get an exact estimate of the numbers unless you like directly measure how much you use up and how much you have in your collection. So these are all numbers for fun. This is just to give you like an idea, but it's not like purely like, it's not 100% accurate. But anyway, 2.41 years of primer is absolutely fine, even if I'm like you thinking of like full primers. Then next up we have pencil liners, and currently in my collection I have 3 pencil liners, that's like eyeliners, and looking back at my numbers, I have on average used up 1.33 eyeliners, like pencil eyeliners over the years, which means that I have 2.26 years left of eyeliners, which is fine. That's also a number that's fine. Honestly, anything that's under 3 years, I'm like stoked about, to be honest. So that's absolutely fine. When it comes to liquid liners, I currently have 2 in my collection. I have a black one and a brown one. And on average, this is like a shocking number, but on average for the last couple of years, I only used up 0.33 eyeliners, which means that it takes me 3 years to go through on liquid eyeliner, which is crazy, but I know I don't use them like at all really, so that doesn't really shock me too much. But judging from that, I have 6.06 years worth of eyeliner, and that's, again, it's liquid eyeliner. But of course I wouldn't keep my eyeliners for that long. I think I'd like throw them out before I get to that point, of course. But it's something that I don't really use very often. I think having a brown and a black is good, but yeah, it's definitely a category that has a high number, but I'm not worried about it because I only have 2 in my collection anyway. It's just a product that I don't really reach for or like use very often, and that's why the number is so high. The next category we have is mascaras, and currently in my collection I have 6 mascaras, which is, you know, it's a bit higher than I want, but I have a lot of them untouched. I currently only have 2 open, which is a waterproof and a non-waterproof mascara. But on average, I have used up 4.83 mascaras per year, which gives me a total years worth of 1.24 years, which is fine. And I think that is, I mean, the number is quite high. 4.83 is quite a high number, but I know it's because a lot in the past I had like minis, things like that, which went through quite quickly. And I mean, I have a couple minis now as well. So yeah, maybe it would be a little bit higher than that, maybe more like 2 years, but that's fine. And again, happy with that number. The next category is quite interesting, and that is brow pencils. And that is because I have 0 brow pencils in my collection. It's something that I don't really use anymore because I use powders for my brows instead. So looking at the numbers, on average, it said I had used up 0.33 brow pencils per year. But again, I could have probably done similar to the setting spray here and excluded the years where I didn't own a brow pencil, because I haven't owned one for a couple of years. So it's definitely higher than 0.33. But the reason why I didn't go back and recalculate that is because it wouldn't make a difference. I still have 0 years worth of brow pencils. Then the last category before we move into eyeshadows are lip products. So we're going to start off with lip liners. And currently in my collection, I have 8 lip liners, which is pretty good. It's not too many. And looking at those numbers, on average, I have used up 1.83 lip liners per year, prior to this year. Which means that I have 4.37 years worth of lip liners, which is fine. It's under 5. I think that's good. Obviously, like, it's still quite a long time, but I don't mind that. I think, again, since it's under 5 years, I'm pretty happy with that number. Then let's move on to lipsticks. And currently in my collection, I have 74 lipsticks, and it's something that I've been trying really hard to lower down. I used to have like over 200 lipsticks in my collection, which was way too much. But I've been panning, decluttering, all of that kind of stuff, and I've been continuously trying to lower that number. I think I remember I had like 100 a year or so ago, so obviously that's been going down with like decluttering and panning and not bringing too much in. But I have 74 at the moment, and on average, looking back, I have used up 6.17 lipsticks per year, which means that I have 11.99 years worth, so basically 12 years worth of lipsticks, which is way too much because I couldn't go through all of them in that time. But I think that's fine because I am continuously panning. I am panning quite a few lip products each year, and it's something that I'm trying to get out, and obviously not bringing in too much, and just trying to lower the numbers that I have before I can bring in more. I'm not like a no buyer or anything, but I have completely shifted my mindset when it comes to lip products, so I don't bring in that much. And I do, of course, think I will declutter some along the way too. But currently, I do have 11.99 years worth of lipsticks. When it comes to lip glosses, I currently have 23 in my collection, and currently I have used up, well, like up to this date, I have used up 1.67 lip glosses per year on average, which give me 13.77 years worth of lip gloss in my collection. I do think, again, this number would be a little bit lower because over the last like year or two, I have been using up lip glosses at a higher rate than I used to in the past. Lip gloss really wasn't something that I like used that much in my collection before, but I do really like them now. So I do think that number will be higher. And so far this year, I've already used up 2 lip glosses, I believe. And I'm going to use up quite a few more. So I know that number is going to be higher moving forward. So it would definitely be less than 13.77 years. But again, I'm just looking at the average across the last 6 years of me panning makeup. Then lastly, for lip products, we have liquid lipsticks. And that is including like drying liquid lipsticks, like the more classical ones, like the more kind of moussey ones, like the NYX Soft Matte Lip Creams or the Kaleidos. Cloud Labs, those kind of products, but also like anything that is a bit more opaque, I count as a liquid lipstick. And currently with all of those products, I have 22 in my collection at the moment, which is not too high. Again, I used to have way more, but I have decluttered some throughout the years as well as used some up. But the usage the use of these aren't as high, because on average per year, I only use up 0.67 liquid lipstick per year, which, because I have so few used up per year, it gives me a total of 32.84 years worth of liquid lipstick, which is, again, very high. And it's something that I definitely have to like keep in consideration, and maybe I need to pan some more of my liquid lipstick or just like declutter them, because 32, almost 33 years is a crazy amount, especially for like lip products or like cream products in general. But those were all of the like lip products. Lastly, we have come to my eyeshadow category, and this is like the most exciting one, at least for me, because I don't know, I'm an eyeshadow lover, and it was just interesting because I know that I have too many eyeshadows in my collection, but it would be fun to just see how many years I truly have. So At the moment, I have 1,277 eyeshadows in my collection, which is a lot. Like back in the day, I tried to keep below 1,000, but obviously I've surpassed that. I'm trying to not buy any more eyeshadows, or like at least limit my amount that I buy, which is why I'm on like a eyeshadow bank this year. But that is my amount, 1,277. And looking back on my last couple of years, my last 6 years, I have an average of 9 eyeshadows used up each year, which gives me the highest number yet, which was no surprise. No one's surprised. Let's be honest, no one's surprised. But it gives me 141 years, 0.88 years. So 141.88 years. 142 years almost. That is more than a lifetime. That is like 2 people's lifetime of wearing makeup, if not more. Oh, it could even be 3 people's lifetime of wearing makeup, and that is crazy. I'm not trying to defend myself. I'm not trying to like make it better, but I do kind of need to mention something, I guess, because 9 eyeshadows per year used up is quite a low amount, especially considering how I use my makeup now. I think back in the day I only used up maybe like 2-3 eyeshadows per year, whereas like last 2 years I used up around like 16, 17, 18 eyeshadows, something like that. So obviously it is higher now. Nowadays, I have a goal this year to try to use up, at least the last couple of years, I've had a goal to try to use up 20 eyeshadows per year, which is something that I'm really going to try to strive towards moving forward as well. And if I do finish up 20 eyeshadows per year, my numbers are significantly better. Still bad, but significantly better. Because if I finish up 20 eyeshadows per year, which again is going to be my goal for moving forward, I will have 63.85 years worth of eyeshadows, which is probably again more than I could ever finish, but it is way more manageable than 141.88 years. So take that with a grain of salt. Take that like, you know, I don't know what I'm trying to prove with any of that, but yeah, I just thought that was interesting because I got really alarmed when I saw the 141.88 years. But again, I think that's like, that is including obviously my like 2018, 2019 usage, which is where I didn't finish up much at all. Even 2020, I think I didn't finish up much at all. It's only like in the last 3 years or so that I've really been focusing on trying to finish eyeshadows. So I wanted to include that as a little bit of a tidbit information to, I don't know, to the calculations. But that is the numbers. That's all of the categories that I have, and it's quite interesting to see. I'm actually quite pleasantly pleased with a lot of the categories, because a lot of them I feel like are quite manageable. The lowest categories that I have are mascaras with 1.24 years, as well as foundations with 1.57 years. So both of those are below 2 years. I have a lot of categories between 2 and 3 years, which I'm really, really happy with, because I feel like that's a manageable amount. And then most of them are actually under 5 years as well. The only categories that are over 5 years are powders, which is 6.45 years, bronzers, which is 8 years, highlighters, which is 20.67 years, which is a problem category. Then we have blushes, which is 26 years, another problem category. We have liquid liners, which is 6.06 years, but that's fine. And then we have the lip product categories. We have lipsticks with 11.99 years, the lip glosses with 13.77 years, and the liquid lipsticks with 32.84 years. Again, those 3 categories, like lip products, are a bit of a problem category. I've definitely gotten better with the lipsticks particularly, but also lip glosses over the last couple of years. Liquid lipsticks is still quite a high problem category, so I'm going to continue working on those. And then the biggest problem category of all is obviously eyeshadows with 141.88 years or 63.85 years, judging from my new calculations. But again, those are like the problem categories, which I'm not too surprised by. I knew like my cheek products, my lip products, and my eyeshadows would be my biggest problem category. And I'm happy that mostly everything else is below 5 years, apart from obviously powders and liquid eyeliners, which again, I'm fine with. So those are my little kind of numbers. Those are the insights into my collection. I hope it was interesting. Let me know if you guys are shocked by any of the numbers. Let me know how you liked me structuring this video. Do you like that I took the average over the last couple of years rather than just looking at last year's empty? Because personally, I think that's way more accurate. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Also, let me know if you want to see this as like a yearly installment in like, so I can include like the empties from each year into this and get more accurate results. And yeah, I hope you guys are having a lovely day wherever you are. If you've done something similar in your collection, let me know what categories you were most shocked by and which categories are your biggest problem categories. And yeah, otherwise I will catch you in my next one. Bye guys.